Now let's talk about perception. And perception is very vital within the customer experience framework. This part of the customer experience scope, perception, it relates to how individuals regard or understand or interpret something. It has to deal with the mental impressions that we create about objects or people. Perceptions are about feelings. Again, they're about impressions, as I've stated in the definition. They're about experiences, predispositions, and expectations. A lot of times, our impressions of things are formulated once we encounter them, but they're also formulated through word of mouth or through other people's perceived impressions of or perceptions of an object or person. And these are called preconceived notions or predispositions. And those are very important too. And we're going to talk about all of this and how it relates to the consumer experience. Remember, I don't know if all of you have heard the expression first impressions are very important because first impressions are lasting impressions. Well, that's very true. First impressions can make or break a brand. Not to say that first impressions are always right, because most of the times they're not, or even sometimes they're right. And over time, that an object or a person or, or an animal or thing can turn your perception around about how you feel about them. But first impressions are very critical because they kind of create a foundation for which that person is going to tend to engage with you going into the future, or whether they're going to continue to engage with you at all. So, how can you improve your perception? Companies can improve their perceptions in two very distinct ways. They can effectively establish a brand or business culture that aligns with their target audience. Again, that theme is going to be consistent throughout this discussion. Aligning your brand and your products or services with your target customer. Now remember, you're going to have all kind of customers. Some customers you're not really targeting; they're just coming in. But you want to align yourself with your target audience. What does my product or service align to? What customer base does my product or service align to? And that's the ones that you want to hone in on. And that's going to be the consumers that you care about. And as you evolve, as your product or services evolve, your consumer may evolve. But you always want to stay focused on your target audience so that you build a relationship, a trustworthiness with that consumer. All others, not everyone's going to like your brand. You can't worry about being liked by everyone. And remember that quote that we had from Colin Powell earlier. Not everyone's going to like you, and you cannot please everyone. So focus on your consumer. And then also you want to allocate a budget. And this one is very important. You want to allocate a budget for marketing and promotion to sway company perceptions in your favor and to mitigate or counter negative perceptions and consumer responses about your brand. So let me just give you some prime examples, because this is how perception works. Perception can work in two different ways. They can work. I think we all know the obvious. The obvious is you're introduced to someone or you encounter someone, and you may encounter them from a distance. Let's just say you're walking up to an individual, and just by the way and let's say you're in a business setting. As you're walking up to this individual, let's say this individual is nicely dressed. He or she is nicely dressed. They look, they're in a business suit. They have on business attire. They look very clean. Their clothes look, let's just say they look very expensive. They look very professional. You may formulate an opinion or perception that this person is good at what they do. This person is very sharp at what they do, even before they've even said anything to you. You're kind of walking up to them and you're going to develop internally. You may not consciously think about it, but subconsciously you're going to automatically give this person credibility because of the way that they are dressed. It's your perception that, oh, this person is good at what they do. This person, I can put my hand, I can give them my money and they can manage my money, or whatever it is that this person is going to do for you, just because they look the part. And then as that person talks and as you encounter that person, some feelings may be reinforced, some things may fall apart. But perception is very important because now you had that preconceived notion as you was walking up to that individual. And then as you engaged with them, your feelings and some impressions and even some of those predispositions, that predisposition that this person is a professional or preconceived notion, were either going to be upheld or some things are going to be shattered. So that's how the relationship works with perception. And similarly, it can turn out to be the other way. You walk up to an individual and they're not dressed apart. They're not dressed at all. Their clothes are hanging off of them. Their clothes are ripped, torn, or whatever. And you're probably going to think, well, am I going to let this person manage my money and they look like this? And not to say that that person can't manage your money. I'm just trying to say that a lot of times perception impacts how we gauge things. So a lot of times too, if you're approaching a person who's well dressed and they look the part and they look like they can manage your money and they talk very eloquently and they use a lot of big words and they're just looking and talking and walking the part, right? When you have that with an individual, a lot of times even little small things that they do, you'll write it off as, oh, they just may have had a bad day. Or, oh, yeah, well, they did this thing I didn't kind of like. They were 10 minutes late, but, and then you'll brush things off because your original perception of that individual is that they're sharp, professional, and that they know what they're doing, and they're the best thing or the best money manager that you've ever dealt with. So your perception is going to write off a lot of the other little small quirks that they may have. Similarly, if a person's not dressed apart, and that person may be very good at their job, but if they're not dressed apart, they show up in a ripped up t-shirt, some ripped up jeans, some very old shoes, and they're talking about being a money manager and a wealth manager, you're going to be on guard. Or I shouldn't say, and I shouldn't speak in generalities, but on average, most people will be on guard. And then if that person shows up 5 minutes late, every little thing that they do wrong, no matter what great things that they do, you're going to hang up on the little things. You're going to be like, yeah, they showed up 10 minutes late. And you're going to take that and you're going to blow it out of proportion. So it's similar to a business. If you're running a storefront, if your storefront looks shabby on the outside and maybe it's in a bad neighborhood, and not to say that bad neighborhoods can't have great stuff, but a lot of times people develop preconceived notions about things, and those preconceived notions will heighten every little small thing that business does. They can have 35 clean tables within their, let's just say this is a fast casual restaurant, mom and pop owned, but it's in a bad neighborhood. It kind of looks bad on the outside, but the food is fantastic. They can have 35 clean tables on the inside. You'll look at that one dirty table and most people will blow that out of proportion. Oh, the table was dirty. And then they can have soft music playing in there. And then people will say, oh, the music was blaring and loud. People tend to exaggerate those type of things because now their negative perceptions are taking over, and vice versa. You can walk into a fancy establishment and you can have a whole bunch of different small things going on that are wrong in that business. But a lot of times people will write it off because everybody has branded this business as the cool business. And now also too, and this is what I want to touch on as well, because now other people's perceptions that you may have gotten online that, oh, this is a 5-star business. This business is great. And the influencers that you may follow or like, or people whose opinions you value and trust, everyone likes it and thinks it's cool. You'll go in there and you may start to write off some of the quirks with that business. So that's how perceptions play a role. And as one example that I do want to give, and this is just my personal opinion, I think that Apple they're a prime example of people who control their perception, because you have the ability to control the perception that you give out about your business. And if you think about Apple, and I don't own any Apple products, don't subscribe to it. I do think Apple's a great company though. But just think about the products and services that they have, or just the products. When you look at their marketing brands them as the cool product. Their culture brands them as the cool culture. So when you think of Apple, you think of cool things. You think of this is the in vogue product. This is the premier. They're the flagship. They're the leaders of their industry, the tech industry, whether it be phones or tablets and so forth. But they're the leaders of that. So everybody wants their product. You go into their stores, most people I know, they'll say, man, the lines are long. You can have those other different quirks about the actual functionality, the engagement process. And some people be like, well, the phone's just okay. Yeah, the phone's okay. But a lot of people, and they'll think that to themselves, but because everybody else thinks it's cool, their perception allows them to heighten up the brand higher than what it actually is. And I'm not trying to say that Apple isn't great. I'm not trying to say Apple isn't cool. Those are obviously are subjective opinions, but I'm just saying how you can control your brand to turn some of the negative things about your brand, like slow line times, or waiting, because in Apple you can wait a while, but the brand perception is so cool that you'll overlook some of those deficiencies probably within their process. Similar to other brands, other like clothing brands have that type of power. So you can control your perception by ensuring that your business aligns again with the consumer expectation. You have to, again, focus on who your target audience is. And then once you have your target audience, then you align your business accordingly. And then too, again, like I was saying before, you can control your perception. You can beat those external perceptions that you can't control, because you can't control what people post about you online. You can't control the reviews that are going to come in. Again, you're going to get reviews from people who aren't your customers, your customer base, those interlopers that come into your business. You're going to get reviews from other people. You're going to have to counter that. And the way you counter that is through effective marketing and promotion to say, we're cool, we're this, or whatever it is that your brand is, we're the one that you want to be aligned with. Similar, Tesla, I think, and they're another example. Tesla does a great job at controlling the perception of their products. They do. They brand themselves as the preeminent electric car company. There are other electric cars out there, but Tesla will let you know we're the cool ones. If you buy anything else, you're not cool. And their CEO does a good job at doing that. He's very effective at doing that. He creates the perception. No matter what you hear in the news negatively about Tesla, and I'm not trying to say it's Tesla's fault or not, don't know. I'm not going to get into that. But regardless of the product, the overall perception is that Tesla is a cool product to own. And you're going to either wait in line, you're going to sign up and subscribe, you're going to do whatever it is you have to do to get a Tesla. Most of the Tesla customers will do that, and they rave about their product. So again, these are things that you can do for perception. Perception can be controlled. Again, you can't control everything. You're going to have those external perceptions, but you're going to have to mitigate, and you're going to have to find a counter to the external negative perceptions that you have through marketing and promotion. That's going to be the effective way to control negative perceptions about your brand. But to kind of be proactive, the best thing to do is just align your business and create a great perception. And that perception, again, it's going to start through the process framework of the consumer experience.